Paladin's Cave of Dreams, episode 9. We're gonna get into a reading. Yeah, I'm finna do a reading, and today the reading is gonna be The Invisible Slave Religion of the Antebellum South. Reiterate that one more time for you. Slave religion, the invisible institution in the antebellum South, by Albert J. Robertois. And it's interesting. This is an interesting text. I got some notes here. And we're finna get into something. Deep. Recently I've been looking more into Vodzu. We're looking more into Vodzu and understanding more about the African religions and seeing where they play into the context of today. Everybody says God is dead. Many say God is still here. Some say there is no God. Others say God's within. Others say you are a God. Others say the Asiatic black man is God. There's a lot of God talk, but in the age of God talk, in the age of American gods, where are the British gods at? In the age of American gods, where are the Indian gods? Where are the Chinese gods at? Everybody's got their gods. Some people worship money. I wonder if bees worship honey. I would just say this. You're better off worshipping yourself than someone else. Well, in any case, you're better not off worshipping someone else's God. Even if you share ideas, God seems very private. I'm pretty sure the word God actually correlates to darkness. Well, Lucifer seems like the light bringer. So all I can say is, how do you feel when you close your eyes? I feel very connected to everything. When I open my eyes, I see a lot of separation. I see a lot of individual things. You know, little pens, pencil. I mean, I'm an artist, so just being someone who's very curious, I would see a lot of. You know, they say the mark of intelligence is how many distinctions you can see within different people and human beings. They say the dumber you get, basically, the more you see everyone alike. So if you put people in boxes, you generally don't have to think much about them once you have them right in front of you. Or you can I mean, the worst thing you can ask an artist is, so what do you paint? Because, or you say, what is your art about? I mean, these are questions they don't really get to the core of it. I mean, I'm an artist. The core of being an artist is expression of individual spirit, the temperament. We have to understand the temperament. Each artist has different temperament. Some are cooler. Some like Vladimir Horowitz seem to embody both heat and coolness. It seems like the greatest artists seem to be able to utilize all elements to express themselves. They're not confined to one color or two or three. I would say the rainbow seems to be able to be broken into 7 colors, 9 dimensions if you add in white and black. White and black seem to give you grey. Semen is grey. That's an interesting thing. Quentin Q. Reeves said, he said the mix between semen and menstrual fluid is like pink. And he correlated that to... I'm going to correlate it to Solomon the salmon. Yeah, I said it. I think Solomon is a salmon. And I think he was the first one to swim upstream. That's what it would be. But, you know, where do we go from here? You know, we've been told to go inward. We've been told to stop looking at the external realm. But somehow our bills still need to be paid. And that seems annoying. Just doesn't seem like it makes much of genius. But okay, what does that mean? That means, why should I concern myself with bullshit? Because if you don't, you're going to sleep in the cold. Depending on where you live. But sleeping without covers isn't fun. So you have to have some attention to your body at least, otherwise you die. I mean, if you take conscious breaths, but if you eat yourself to too much, you get really fat, and then you can't breathe, and then you can't be. Some people can't even leave their house, can't leave their bed. It gets that bad. I mean, how do you not see yourself once in the mirror? I mean, I think at some point you don't fit in the mirror. How does that work? But yeah. Okay, so we're gonna read a book. We're gonna start reading this book, "Invisible Slave Institutions of the Antebellum South." That's the title. Albert J. Robertswell. And these are called this part of the Aladdini's Cave of Dreams is called Curiosity Curiosity Shows. That's what it's called. It's called Curiosity Shows, and we're just reading little excerpts from books. So let's start with the bit where it says Dahomey, because that's what I've been looking up. That's the keyword within my frame. It's just been Dahomey. I've just been thinking of Dahomey and Dahomean kings. And that's really what I've been doing. So let's do that. One second. I gotta find this word Dahomey. I could type it in actually. Let me do that. I couldn't be bothered to type it in. I'm still scrolling in this mother. Okay, where is it? Okay, we're stopping here. Okay. In Africa and elsewhere in the Caribbean, possession by a loa, or a mystere, as they are called, is the climax of voodoo tradition. When possessing his devotee, Hunsi, a loa is located in the head and is called mate tete. Mate tete. I gotta ask the French how they pronounce that. All the French speakers who have broken French or something. I mean, this doesn't seem like it's anything to do with bourgeois society. An individual usually gains a mate tete, by inheriting him from his family or being seized and possessed by a wild beast. I just realized I've got a problem with making mistakes. I think everyone does, but I think I do particularly. Okay, let's not get distracted. Let's read that from the beginning again. In Haiti, as in Africa and elsewhere in the Caribbean, possession by the loa, or mystere as they are called, is the climax of voodoo tradition. When possessing his devotee, Hunsi, that means devotee, a loa is located in the head and is called a mate tete. An individual usually gains a mate tete by inheriting him from his family or being seized or possessed by a wild bozo loa, which must first be identified by Hugin, or priest diviner, and then set or established by baptism in the rite called lave tete. Sounds a bit weird. Nonetheless, each loa has a character manifested by the behavior or the possessed Hunsi, and within a given area, this behavior is so standardized that the loa is recognizable. Okay, I have to say this so I understand it. One more time. Let's read that sentence one more time. Each loa has a character manifested by the behavior of the possessed Hunsi. Okay. So if you are possessed by a particular deity, Ogun is the god of thunder. And there's a very important part in this book, lower down in one of the segments on Curiosity Shows, that goes into the syncretism between the deities of the 16 Orisha pantheon. They are also correlated to, as you could say, Catholicized, Anglicized saints. And these saints have characteristics, particularly in correspondence with the deity. So this is how those who are the Slavs that were brought here from the Fon which is Dahomey, and the Dahomey and the Yoruba. They also were said to be some of the most valued servants for the housework because their minds, they seemed much more organized based on the societal structure that they came from. A lot of them were very, very intelligent, and they had a lot of gifts. And that also correlates to a question of why these students, why the descendants of ADOS, the American descendants of slavery, or sovereigns, or all of these, why in the American schools, I had a question that I pondered to myself. This is why the African students or the Nigerians, the head of the school, why are they the most advanced students in pretty much all of the fields? I need to check whether or not they're doing the best, but I think in technology they are doing, and they're saying that Africa is the booming place, one of the most booming places of technology, or if not the most booming place. So let's get into that one more time. So when a lower is located in the head and is called matetete, an individual usually gains a matetete by inheriting it. Okay, let's go further. It says each lower has a character manifested by the behavior of the possessed hunsi, and within a given character or within a given area, this behavior is so standardized that the lower is recognizable. So this, when the human being gets possessed by the individual, by the lower, by the deity, lower also, yeah, it correlates to law. By the deity, when they get possessed by the deity, they start having this characteristic of the deity. So maybe if the deity is said to be a more aggressive deity, a war deity, they'll start stomping, or they might clashing. They have these things called a son. They might be clashing a sons. I think these things are like metal tin instruments. There's a lot of real instruments that are correlated to rituals. Okay. But the style of the behavior for a lower may vary from area to area. So that is interesting. It's saying the style of the behavior for a lower may vary significantly from area to area. May vary significantly from area to area. I don't know, when they're saying area, are they talking about hemisphere of the brain, or are they talking about actual physical area? Not that there is much difference. I mean, we live in these orbs, and there seem to be many of them. They're called planets. They're within galaxies. And galaxies is, I mean, the word seas, and sea is in galaxy. And you have Galax. Sounds like a party. You know, galas is correlated to party. I read that in the dictionary the other day. Parties are gatherings where individuals come and share spaces. So what is this universe? It's a space shared by individuals, and we like to party. So, yeah, we are in a galaxy. We're in a party. We're in a party sea. We're in a parting of the sea. We're in a part of the sea. Is that what the Bible was talking about when they said that Moses had the staff to part the sea? They were a part of a sea. They were part of a sea. Okay. Indeed. The unity of voodoo as a religion and the same might be said of the other African cults. Okay, let's read this back. Indeed, lower venerated in one district may be totally unknown in another. Okay, so they are talking about physical worlds. And they're saying that when the topology changes, and I was also reading about the Aboriginals and the dreaming of the land, and how they're the beginning. They are the beginning. They have the connection to the Australopithecus. They have the connection to the Australopithecus, Lucy. They have the most immediate connection. Seven Bomar was talking about Pathogenesis, which is about hermaphrodites. So they're saying that the first beings were hermaphrodites. They could regenerate with themselves by themselves. They are asexual beings. They please themselves, and some of these traits are still here. This is why we probably please ourselves, even though we don't have to because they're other human beings. But it's more convenient to please yourself. So this is probably why they were the beginning stage. I thought that maybe the Earth was started because of every woman had twins that way, and the first twins would be they would have to be twins. But imagine if Adam and Eve are twins. But if they are twins, that makes everybody related. But that sounds weird because I don't feel related to you. But I love you, but I don't feel related. Okay. So they're saying the unity of voodoo as a religion lies not in doctrinal or ritual conformity or uniformity, but in common and basic African theological perspective. The perspective is that there is one God. Some call her Mawu. Or but the other God, I gotta check this, but I think it's Nana Baluku. Let's just say Nana Baluku was given charge to take over the space after Mawu had finished. So Mawu creates everything and she said, okay, Nana Baluku, I created you. And I created Dan Haida Wedu, Elegba, the Joker. And I created him. And you two are gonna populate the space. And you are gonna make it a party. Now go have fun. And immediately they went off doing different things. But it doesn't make sense just to leave Nana Baluku and Legba, because Legba is cunning. And Legba's coming for you. That's what he said. That's what I'm trying to say to you. So I'm telling you, it gets like that. It gets like that sometimes. Okay. So the preservation of this perspective in Brazil and the Caribbean has frequently been explained by referring to the presence of Catholicism, which it is argued tended to reinforce African religious traditions because of its openness to syncretism. The preservation of this perspective in Brazil and the Caribbean has frequently been explained by referring to the presence of Catholicism. Preservation of this perspective in Brazil and the Caribbean has frequently been explained by referring to the presence of Catholicism. Has frequently been explained by referring to the presence of Catholicism. Frequently been explained. Let's close my eyes on one. Let's all close my eyes on this one. Frequently been explained. Let me turn this light down. It's kind of bright shit. That's why I can't focus. Ah, shit. Okay. So, frequently, the preservation. Okay, so there's someone trying to preserve a perspective. They're trying to uphold a traditional way of looking at this. They want to uphold. They have a biased perspective, and they try to uphold it. They're trying to keep it there over your eyes. They don't want you to see with your eyes. Why do they want you to see with your eyes? How about that? Why are they always putting things in front of your eyes? I'm gonna tell you something. What are you looking at? I don't ask you. That's how I ask you. What are you looking at? When you're looking at a lot of things, let's point something out. When you're looking at a TV, for real. That's a question. I heard of Black Mirrors. You heard of Black Mirrors? Scrying mirrors. Scrying. What is that? That's about projection. That's about projection. That sounds like a something about projection. It doesn't look like it's about anything else. What's a projection? It seems like something you eject. It says the word eject in there. You know, shit. We eject shit. We eject semen. Ejection. Ejecting. What's that? Shooting something out of somewhere. So, projecting. You're able to send something invisible. That's deep. So you can send something invisible into a space and watch it scatter nations. Democracy. It seems like someone's trying to uphold a perspective. That's what it seems like. I'm just asking myself what it seems like. It tells me like someone's trying to uphold a perspective. I'm not trying to uphold a perspective. I'm trying to make my perspective change based on where I'm going. If I go somewhere, my perspective needs to change because it's not gonna go with the people who are there already, unless they already vibe with the thing I'm bringing. But if they don't, I have to change them. I have to compromise. If I don't compromise, they might not want me there. And I'm like to be welcoming because I don't know what they have under that shirt. I don't know what they got under the chair. I don't know what they got under there. I don't want to be looking nowhere. I like to feel safe. I feel safe if I just compromise. Yes, I do. I feel like with the people there are going to say, okay, he is understanding. It's not cool being a beg. It's cool being understanding. It's the way you do it. You don't just get on your knees and be like, trying to give fellatio to people. No. You actually say, hi, I'm so and so. In this case, I'm accommodated, and I'd like to meet you. Let's meet. We could meet. Let's go to somewhere we could eat, and let's sit down with our feet, and let's say, well, who are you? What do you represent? He will say maybe well, you don't sit down at the table. You don't spit the food out while you're gonna eat, and you don't eat with your food. You don't eat with your mouth. You don't talk with your mouth open. So what does that mean? That means at the table you have to have a certain manner. You have to have a certain decorum. Otherwise, he doesn't want you at his table. He has established a set of notions at his table, and he would rather you adhere to those notions or disappear. That is as simple as that. So I'm going to be 100% honest. I agree with that perspective. When you come to my table, there are rules. If you don't want to step those rules, please exit the room. Otherwise, I'd like to have air as a guest rather than you in my space. And that's simple. My space is my space. I created my space so I can see who I am. And if I can't have my space, I can't see who I am. That's why they put people in boxes in prison and they have no ability to customize their space. Very little ability. If the smaller you shrink someone's ability to customize their space, the more their spirit withers with that space. That is why people like to live in mansions, because mansions have a lot of space and they feel like they are expanded as the universe is expanded. But when they're in small spaces like flats, they feel like they are cramped like I do, and they feel like they need to move. So they create plans of moving and ascending into new states of consciousness, and they call that real estate. But the realest real estate is the real estate that you sit on, which is your mind. So you have to work on that space. You have to change that space. I decided I'm going to change my space. I'm going to create the greatest mind that I can think of, which is the mind that I can think of, which is the mind that I think through, which is why I do what I do. And I do this. I communicate. That's what I do. I communicate what I perceive in the universe. I communicate what I say. I just said I communicate. Anyway, that might be a word. I don't know. Let's just say I created it. Communicate. It means when you confuse something in a space with something that is foreign from a space. Let's communicate this. I completely have. This is another segment of the podcast. This is called stream consciousness. I'm in a new space. I'm in a new space. Okay, I'm in a new space. I don't know where I'm at, but I'm somewhere, and I'm communicating where I'm at. And here, there's a perspective. There is working on unifying. Shouts out to Seven Bomar. Unify. Okay. Let's leave that. It was a shout out to Seven Bomar. You heard me. It's not about me being friends with Seven Bomar. This is what it's about. I was just trying to promote his universe. His universe is expanded. But we can have more people. Shouts out to Seven Bomar. I'm gonna tell you that. He only has 100,000 followers. Come on, man. Come on, get a guy a chance. You know what I'm trying to say? Let him feel. Let's expand this whole consciousness. It's not about him. This is about consciousness, and this is about understanding certain ideas. We have to understand certain ideas. Why is Jordan Peterson, the very, very important human being in our time? It's because he's actually, it's a very interesting thing. When I met him in consciousness, when I saw what he was doing on the YouTube and the internet, I said to myself, interesting. He is a Christian. a Christian. He is a Christian. In his fundamentalism, he is a Christian. And he has changed many atheists into Christians. He had a father. He had a good relationship with his father. As far as I know, he was raised by his father, and I don't know about his mother, but he was raised by his father, and he came to certain conclusions, and he has a very, very, very good understanding of Solzhenitsyn, and he has a good understanding of the Gulag Archipelago that Solzhenitsyn wrote. He has a very good understanding of certain differences between gender. He has a very good understanding of Jung and the Viennese school of psychoanalysis, and he has a very good understanding of Jean Piaget, who is the child developmental psychologist, and he understands a bit about Abraham Maslow of the hierarchy of needs, and the study of exceptional people and their characteristic traits, which is all that flipping bloody, I don't want to say bloody, but let's say self-help books are about. They're pretty much about Abraham Maslow's work. They're, if he was around, he would just think that this is all of my thinking, because he was able to bring in that. He had a lot of perspectives on fulfillment, and this is why that tribal man doesn't have depression, because he wakes up and his needs are in front of him. He needs to eat. He needs to eat. Once he's eaten, he's like, okay, I'm gonna make nice symbols. He starts making symbols. And maybe he starts drawing Odinkaras, and he starts seeing patterns, and this is different. We see patterns on leopard skin, but this is different from Picasso and his Iberian ancestry that nobody talks about, and the fact that his father was a professor, and the first universities in Spain were started by the Moors in Salamanca. So what does that mean? You tell me what it means. I don't have to make any conclusions. This is why I am not trying to uphold a perspective. I'm trying to see where things are going. Let's get back to the reading of the book. Let's look for another segment. Each mourner I was going to say each mourner receives charisma, but I need to actually go back to where it says Dahomey. And okay, so let's go. Because it is believed that fatality may be due to unnatural causes such as witchcraft, discovery of the cause of death is of religious, not just medical concern. If a voodooist, for instance, were struck down by lightning or smallpox, he would not be allowed a normal burial because, as in Dahomean and European belief, the deceased would be presumed guilty of an offence which the gods have seen fit to punish by death. The West African custom of carrying the corpse is also commonly employed in the Caribbean in order to determine if a witch was responsible for the death. In Suriname, Dutch Guinea, the coffin-carrying ceremony is used to question the spirit of the deceased about having been a witch himself. Priests question the spirit as the coffin is carried on the heads of two bearers. From the movement of the coffin about the village, the priests decipher the spirit's answers to their questions. A similar burial custom was described for a Jamaican slave funerals in the early 18th century. Okay, so now we're reading about funerals in the early 18th century. When one is carried out to his grave, he is attended with vast multitude. who conduct his corpse in something of a ludicrous manner. They sing all the way, and they bear it on their shoulders, make a feint of stopping at every door they pass, pretending as if the deceased person has received an injury, the corpse moves towards the house, and that they can't avoid letting it fall to the ground, where before the door. As has been frequently noted, African slaves in many areas of the New World were convinced that death would free them from return to Africa. So they're saying that African slaves in the areas of the Americas were convinced that death would free them before they could return. So they thought that death would free them so they could return to Africa. So that's it's saying in chapter 1, the African heritage, that essentially African slaves in the areas of the Americans were convinced that death would free them to return to Africa. So by dying or committing suicide or euthanasia or some sort, they could go back to Africa. This notion was based not simply upon nostalgia for the homeland, but upon firm religious belief in reincarnation. So it seems like the voodoo African religion, the African tradition of voodoo, and the initiation of the rites, of the initial rites, and they're saying essentially that because everything started in Africa, that the rites of Christianity are essentially stolen. In essence, well, they come from Africa, but they are given no credence to Africa. The Christianity is acts like it created the world, and it presumes it created the world. That's actually a very dangerous assumption. It presumes it created a space that shares individuals that don't share the same belief. It means if you contain everything, that means there can be nothing outside of you, and this is actually contrary to God. This is contrary to what we understand to be God. If we share a space, which is the gala, having a party, if we share the galaxy with others, and others don't share our belief, it means that the space in which we hold ourselves, there exists a space out of that space. And this is what people call Nibiru. It's the area of unknown territory that we come into contact with when we explore the fringes of our consciousness. So I'm saying one thing, that I'm not trying to uphold a belief. So let's continue. To be properly understood, reincarnation should be placed in the context of the traditional West African conception of the soul as a complex entity. To be properly understood, reincarnation should be placed in the context of the traditional West African conception of the soul as a complex entity. That is, the individual has several spiritual components. One personality soul appears before God after death to account for its deeds. When a person sleeps, this soul may wander. Dreams are in fact the experiences met by the wandering soul. Linked with the soul is a shadow which is not immortal and dies with the body. Your mind, perhaps. Each person also has and possesses a spirit which in turn serves as a moral guide, their genius. A genius is male, a Juno is female. Each person also possesses a spirit which serves as a moral guide, which is the spirit of the God within man. So let's go back over that one time. So it says, each person also possesses a spirit which serves as a moral guide, which is the spirit of God within man. It returns to God upon death. Okay. So the genius, God takes back God's a selfish, God takes back the genius. That's what it's trying to say. It gives the genius, it basically gives you angels, and then the angels live with God, basically. That's what it's trying to say. There is also a guardian spirit, identified by the Yoruba and the Fon as an ancestor spirit reincarnated and in a descendant. Okay, so let's go back over the top. We have to do that. I'm sorry, guys. We have to do that because this has to flow, and I get caught up in tangents, but these tangents are important. Pay attention. Each person also possesses a spirit which serves as a moral guide, and which is the spirit of God within man. This returns to God upon death. There is also a guardian spirit identified by the Yura and the Faun as the ancestor spirit reincarnated in a descendant. Hi! That's deep. That is deep. The Yoruba offer sacrifice to the guardian spirit to ensure the propitious development of the person's destiny, which the ancestor spirit has chosen before birth. Now why? Praying to one's guardian angel is widespread Catholic practice. So you who say, I do worship, idolatry, but the custom has taken on the distinctly African tone among the rural Afro-Brazilians in Maranhão, who believe that everyone has two spirits, a soul and a guardian angel. I'm going to the toilet, I'll be back. Episode 9, we're back. I'm just going to start going off real talk. Like, that was excerpts of reading. I might do a bit more after this, but I'm just going to say what this was, yeah? So it says, it's because they have no internal world, they seek to control this world. Their master is safety and security and comfort and insecurity. That's why nobody has any safety and nobody has any comfort and nobody has any security. Everybody is afraid of terrorism. And when they are not watching football or come down with me, they're worrying about politics. The founding fathers of America supposedly sought to create a republic. But when Benjamin Franklin was asked by one of his secretaries, "What have you given us? A republic, if you can keep it," said Benjamin Franklin. "Big interests have corrupted everything. Many have no discipline. I myself struggle with discipline. However, I find if I am enjoying something, I will do it. And I will enjoy doing it. When I am not enjoying something, I'm generally doing something that I see has no correlation to my inner expression, which the invisible institution of the antebellum South says is called an odu, or an odu, or an odu, or this may not be correlated with the law, but I think that the odu is definitely correlated with the 16 expressions of the archetypal consciousness. And Nithyananda, who is one of the purported New Age godmen out of Hinduism, has said that they are almost, and he seemed to be able to list them, but I haven't watched that one yet. I've got to watch it, but I saw the thumbnail, but he seems to have listed or so maybe 124 expressions of consciousness. possible expressions of consciousness. What does that mean? We're going to explore that as we progress into the podcast. Not this one, because I haven't got internet. But when I get to the internet, I'm going to look more into Nithyananda and his expressions of consciousness on his page. And I'm also going to see if that relates to the Odu, which is the primal expressions of consciousness. But these expressions don't have to express themselves primarily. That is where the problem comes, because people think that the word primal means that the expression is primal. No, primal is about instinct. Primal is about fire. Primal is about intuition. Primal is not about thinking, although logic is expressed through intuition. Primacy is about immediacy. It's about desperation. So when people get desperate, they get very primal. The newspaper says 11 Marines massacred 30 years ago and still no one has faced justice. So this is about survivors recall horrifying RAA bombing in Deal. As the bombers behind the RAA's Deal attack in 1989 remain a target, survivors have revealed the untold story of the explosion which killed 11 Royal Marine bandsmen. In captions it says, "The ceiling fell, glass flew in, and my entire ears were ringing. Lieutenant Colleen Jassy Burkham." See that again. Jace Burkham. It says Jace. Jase. It's a weird name, Jace. Jace. I'm Jace. I'm Sergeant Jace. Okay. I'm not making fun of it, but it sounds weird, you know. Jace. It just sounds weird. Adjacent. Okay. So, why am I reading this? Because it said they were musicians. It said 11 musicians died. Sounds quite Kabbalistic. Sounds like a sacrifice. I'm gonna be honest. It says 11. Let's read it. It says 11. It says youngest victim was a violin player. Okay. Yeah, it says this is recalling the 11 killed in the attack in Kent. The loss never goes. I think of them daily. We are family. So yeah, it affected a lot of people, but it seems no one has really been held responsible. I need to know more about the RIA. I have to, just because I'm very interested in what these things happen and what triggers them. What did I read that for? I didn't read that to ruin your day. I read that just to say that sometimes you see patterns, like the word 11. Tomorrow, I have a date with destiny. I have to meet the principal of the school of Kensington Chelsea, and I have to meet someone I will not name for obvious reasons, for their private life. And I have to meet them because I have to basically get what is called a dispensation. I can tell you about that. A dispensation is when you have made certain mistakes based on the fact, but in my case it was because I didn't have the actual what you could call the Clemenshaw. You could call the Clemenshaw or the architecture, or you could say the framework, basically to support my external needs. Other than the money that was given to me for me to support myself, I didn't really have any sort of nomenclature to keep myself in order while I was going through this process. And it was my first year as well, so you can understand that it's not my second year. I haven't just pissed off everything and actually, wasted time. I actually got a lot done that year, but based on I just couldn't make it to all the classes, and a lot of it was will. Sometimes, but most of it, the time was I was caught up in other things that were more important, more immediate, like cleaning the house, and then you get tired and you don't actually have the energy to work on it. My mum was also, we had a kitchen, we were sitting on the kitchen table, was eating food, and she told me more and our professor was actually having a rant and a rave about the fact that when if you're a an anthropology student at Oxford or Cambridge, you don't have to work. You don't have to have a second job, and you're actually very much so deterred from doing so, from having a second job. This is your job, this is your education, and that's what he was trying to emphasize for the students. And he was asking them, how many of you have jobs? How many of you have two jobs? Or something, or have parents you're looking after? And it's a rhetorical question. It's saying that you all generally have some other way of making income because the money that the government gives you to support yourself is piss little, mate, and you are going to be struggling, mate. So that's just what that is. But you can be smart, and Audi is very helpful. If anything's from God, it's Audi. No joke. Audi helps a lot. So what I will say is, let's get into a reading. Let's get back into the reading of the Antebellum himself. We're going to stop off where we left off. And it says, 61. The African complex soul concept has also been influential in Dutch Guyana, also known as Suriname, where it is believed that the spirit of an individual, his akra, should be fed by the sacrifice, lest it become angry and refuse to protect the person's soul from evil sources. Evil forces. The akra, which is given at birth, may venture out of the body when a person sleeps, and it departs at death. A person's shadow, may also wander abroad and may fall prey to witchcraft. After death, the Yorka, or ghost of the deceased, continues to exist and may be appealed to by relatives for protective aid. The magical lore of Africa, combined with the European and Indian magical customs, figured prominently in the daily lives of the slaves and their descendants. For instance, the Jamaican or the Rastafari culture has a very strong connection to Hinduism. Hence why they say Junior Gang Mali. Gang is being the active word here. Gong is related to one of the Hindu deities, or particularly maybe a particular Brahmin or Aseda, someone who is a very spiritual, holy person. There are so many within that religion that they have the primary ones. Some of the primary ones would be figures such as Ramana Maharshi, who was very, 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 very significant during the time. Others would be Babaji, which is which is Muji's his master, and they call themselves masters. If you notice, and they call each other masters, and they don't seem to be doing it egotistically. The ego seems to really be put on bay. They do their best. They do their best to really put on this air of ego disappearing. But I will say this: the ego doesn't disappear, but the ego does become. It does become merged. It does become merged, and it becomes much more subtle. And when it becomes more subtler, the consciousness is able to watch it, the ego, from a distance and its games, so that it doesn't ever creep up on you and catch you in unsuspecting. Meaning, it's not gonna flare up, and it's not gonna bite people to spite you. Sometimes it will surprise you, but this is important for it to surprise you. Sometimes what comes out of your own mouth, because imagine if you didn't have what the Hebrews call the Yetzer Hara, which is what they call the wayward spirit, which is the cause of why there is tradition and there is experimentation. And these two dichotomies are basically as common as eros and logos. So these two components are the foundation. Eros and logos Eros being the sexual nature of man, which makes him individual from his brother and his sister, and Logos being the thought and the expression of higher ideals through man, which is what they would call Logos, and hence the word Logos, logarithm, and logical. I got a funny joke. Al Gore, like, why do they say algorithm? Like, I wonder if Al Gore has rhythm. I don't know. I don't think he does. Because, it's Al Gore. Like, why would he have rhythm? But the word Al Gore, rhythm, is interesting. Because I don't think Al Gore has rhythm. Who is Al Gore? I mean, what is Al Gore's... Al Gore, all Gore. All Gore. Allegory. Oh, algorithms. And allegories. They must make sense. There must be some sort of connection between allegories and algorithms. Well, they say everything is universal. There can be nothing without rhythm. So that's episode 9. Other than Escape of Dreams. And mind the dead jokes, whatever, man. But yeah, tune in next episode for another one. And please subscribe and like. Leave a comment if you feel like it. Bye. Bye. Bye.